Welcome to the Midwest Moguls Show, where we talk all things business, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Let's dive into today's episode and make business enjoyable again. Welcome back to the Midwest Mogul Show. We have Tony and Jarus from Good Faith Funding in the studio with us today. Welcome, you guys. If you want to independently give us a little bit of background, who you are, what you do, where you're from, and we'll take the conversation from there.
All right, you want to go first? Okay. My name is Tony BRRRR. I own Good Faith Funding, and I have been in real estate. I started doing traditional mortgage lending back in 1997. Started buying rental properties in 1999. What were you guys doing then?
I think Joe was just born in 1997. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Not to date yourself.
Exactly. So, been involved with real estate for a very, very long time. Bought and sold well over 100 properties. Still own number of residential.
Yeah.
27 unit complex. About 1,000 storage units with some guys that we did a syndication on.
Okay.
And then 10 commercial units as well.
Wow.
Okay.
But yeah, the main gig now is we do with Good Faith Funding. We do private money lending for strictly bridge loan for investors.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout Wisconsin or where?
Throughout Wisconsin.
Okay.
Almost exclusively. Most of our stuff's there.
Mm-hmm.
And really help people get the houses, help with the rehab costs, and a little bit of experience so we can help them so they don't hopefully don't make the same mistakes that we made.
Yeah, no kidding.
Type of thing. And then they either sell the houses or refinance and get us paid off and on to the next deal.
Awesome.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And I'm married, 3 kids, just became a grandfather. So
wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
50-year-old grandfather.
49-year-old. 49,
Yeah,
not
really?
50 yet.
Yeah, I know.
Yet.
Close. Close.
Teach their own on
Yeah.
this.
Jarus is 50 though, plus some.
All right. He's calling you out, Jarus.
Yep.
Jarus, tell us a little bit about yourself.
A couple years wiser than
Say
for
that.
the age, but
Yep.
so I've been at the real estate side with Tony and a little bit before that for about 8 years or so.
Okay.
With Tony the last 5 years. Prior to that, and kind of overlapping about 28 years in the kind of the corporate world, mostly transportation, logistics, leadership roles, part of some buying of companies, selling companies. So spent a lot of time with that and enjoyed the corporate world a lot. Get to spend a lot more time, exciting time for me in the real estate world,
Yep.
the lending world. I like running businesses. I like building businesses. I like helping businesses grow. And frankly, doing it with a good partner.
Yeah.
Tony is exceptionally effective. And so enjoy that a lot.
Yeah.
Married, have 2 kids. Tony's kids and my kids are of similar age.
Okay.
And
nice.
so one out of the nest, one still in the nest,
Yep.
if you will. Enjoying that, but really enjoying the real estate and investing world and learning from others. To me is something that really gets me going, but also sharing the knowledge that we have. And like Tony said, hopefully people won't make the same mistakes that I or we made, and trying to share that knowledge where we can. So just glad to be here, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
No, I
Yeah,
appreciate you guys coming in.
definitely.
That's like, Jarus, what you brought up. Like, so obviously you have a background in corporations. We'll say, keeping it very broad. Would you guys, from your side, is there ever the thought of making Good Faith Funding a sellable company? Like, is that the end goal, or are you just going to kind of keep riding with it?
Yeah, it's a great.
If you even know.
Yeah, it's a great question. Tony and I talk often about what's the next frontier for this business. What are we going to do? We're both young in the sense that we've got enough years ahead of us.
Right.
But we also do this, and frankly, the only reason we do this, at least on the personal side, is because it's still fun.
Yeah.
And we still like doing it, and we like doing it together. In terms of growing the business, we do think about it. In any business evolution, you kind of start to think about, well, what's the next chapter? And is the next chapter going to involve you or maybe the next generation or maybe a different partner or selling the business? So we do think a little bit about this. We recently went through a business valuation, not as much for what could this be worth if we sell it, but more so in any partnership, you have to have the important conversation about what do you do if one of you isn't on this earth anymore. And so it was really more about valuation, a buy-sell agreement, things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The results of that we had it professionally done.
Mhm.
Oh, I bet.
So that was insightful.
Yeah.
But in terms of, is there a on our minds
Yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of what's the next
Mhm.
chapter? Not so much, but we're both also at a similar point in our lives
Yeah.
where, we could decide to do something at some point
Correct.
different, either together or
Yeah.
or separate,
Mhm.
but
And-
nothing imminent.
And when you ask that question,
Yeah.
it's whenever I'm talking to borrowers,
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're going to do a deal, you better have multiple exit
Yeah.
strategies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when we're looking at this, what are those exit
Yeah.
strategies? Yeah,
Right.
those are.
Yeah. That's
We've
interesting.
thought about.
Mhm.
We've
Yeah.
definitely thought about it. Is this something that we could sell? Is this
Mhm.
something that we could hand off? Is
Yep.
all those things?
Mhm.
We've absolutely talked about
Yeah.
that. That being said, this is fun,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I don't want to be bored.
Yeah.
I just we're kind of excited being down here in Oshkosh because I work from home, and my wife's like, "Oh, thank God
Yeah.
you're gonna go do something, get out of the house," So, but yeah, we'd be bored, and this is really, it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, helping people.
Mhm.
Real estate. So many people are excited about real estate, and I get
Mhm.
it. I mean, I love real estate, and if that continues, that joy
Mhm.
and being able to help people out with this stuff, we'll continue on. So.
Mhm.
When it's been a part of your life for like so long,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
very,
Mhm.
very long time. So then
I have
it
no other.
comes-
I have no other skills, Carter.
Yeah.
I
I can't do
didn't want to
anything
say
else.
it. I'm glad you said it. Like your golf game could probably
Yeah,
get a little bit better.
You've seen it. It's not good.
Yeah.
To each their own on that side. I know you're playing a lot, but
Yeah.
maybe in the summertime play a couple extra rounds. All joking. All joking.
Maybe one thing to add to that, if
Yeah,
I could,
yeah, go
as
for
we think about the evolution of our business, which
Yeah.
could really be any business.
Yep.
Right.
You also are sometimes a company, and we have as well. You're kind of tempted by, well, should we either expand geographically,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or should we offer more loan types,
Mhm.
or should we change, what, should we do more multifamily, or
Mhm.
whatever else could be the other adjacent things. And we've consciously talked about that. And every once in a while, we'll maybe do a one-off
Yeah.
loan here
Mhm.
and there. But it's really been a mantra of ours that we want to just stay in our lane
Yeah.
and
Right.
continue to do what we're good at. In the state of Wisconsin, there's
Mhm.
plenty more market share
Mhm.
to,
Yes.
to
Right.
chase. But do we get asked? Yeah, often
Yeah.
about out of state. Could you do a different deal? Could you do a commercial deal? What
Yeah.
about mixed use? And do we have the capital? Yes. Do we have the expertise? Maybe in some cases. Would we have to figure out some things? Probably. But simple and rinse and repeat,
Yep.
and stay in our lane. I mean, those are a little cliche words, but it really is what works for us,
Right.
and allows us to not have to think about any one-off things, because that can be a distraction for
Correct.
any business owner.
You guys, I'm sure have seen that. I mean, real estate can be a very shiny object.
Oh, terrible.
syndrome.
Right.
Terrible.
I mean,
Oh,
you see people all the
huge.
time. Hey, you get a guru comes in talking about
Yeah.
motels or mobile homes
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
whatever, and you're like, hey, people make money on those
Yeah.
things.
Mhm.
But if that's what you want to focus on, God
Yeah.
bless you. Go ahead and do it. But focus on that. Get good at that one thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we're really good at what we do.
Yeah.
I'm very biased, but I think
I think you guys are
we're good at
phenomenal.
what we
Like
do.
the best.
Thank
That's-
you.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate that. But
Best in
but we're good
Wisconsin.
at what we do because we do stay in our lane, and
Yeah.
we could branch out, and very well may at some point. But that is not on the horizon,
Yeah.
and it's partially because I preach that to other people too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Get good at something, and
Yep.
if you want to branch out, I didn't go out of like traditional or residential investing.
Yeah.
Until way late in my
Mhm.
career,
Mhm.
and I only did it because I had other people involved that
Yep.
know that storage units
Correct.
and know the multis. I didn't
Mhm.
do that on my own. I had partners
Yeah.
with that stuff
Right.
because I stuck to my lane. My lane, I enjoyed it, comfortable with it, knew it does, or know how to do it,
Yeah.
know how to do it well,
Mhm.
and then moved on.
Right.
So it's really important, I think, especially if you're a newbie,
Yeah.
pick something, get really good at it,
Mhm.
and then if you want to branch out, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a big thing or big mistake with people that are just getting into real estate is they see the wholesaling, the flipping, the
Yes.
rentals,
Mhm.
and they're trying to do pretty much all three at the same time. And that itself can be overwhelming. And what I've come to learn is like just sticking with one, focus on, okay, how does the whole process work on flips? Let me specialize on the whole process of everything that goes into it. And then once I get to that point where I feel confident in myself and running all the numbers and everything like that, then maybe you can kind of branch out from there. I know it's taken Car and I a couple
it's-
years just to get familiarized with different processes and
Yeah.
everything. But like you said, if you don't like understand at least one component of the whole business, you're not going to really make it that far. Like,
It's a marathon.
it
Yeah,
is.
it is.
It's not a sprint. And sometimes
Yeah.
people are like, well, they see you watch HGTV
Correct.
and you
Yeah.
see, hey, well, I just made $1 million on a flip. I mean,
Mhm.
it just doesn't happen
No.
that way
Mhm.
normally.
No, no.
It can,
we
but
would love it. Yeah.
not normally.
That's-
So,
yeah.
but it's a marathon, and it's getting good at what you're doing. Get your systems in place, and then expand,
hmm
and then do some other things if that's what you so choose. But getting good at those things. It's otherwise even simple things like, okay, you bought a rental.
Mhm.
Do you manage it yourself, or do you have someone manage
Yeah.
it for you?
hmm
You know, I mean I
Yeah.
get that,
Yeah.
and the answer I typically get when I ask people that, they're like, well, I'm going to manage my first couple, and then I'm going to get a property manager when I get big enough.
hmm
And I'm like, why would you want to reinvent that wheel?
True.
Correct.
You know,
Mhm.
buying a rental
Yeah.
and fixing it up is different than managing that rental.
Way different.
And you might want to,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
but my thought is, hey, I'm gonna hire someone to manage that for me. I'm gonna learn from them.
hmm
Hey, what processes they do?
Yeah.
What software do they use? What paperwork do they use? How do they find a good tenant? You know, ask questions. And then if you decide you like that, God bless, go ahead,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go
get
for
in
it.
it, do it. But you might not, and it's
Yeah.
it's just a different beast. So if
Mhm.
there's like finding deals, people ask me, how do I find a deal? I'm like, go to a wholesaler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel.
Well,
yeah.
Like they're
Or-
offering deals.
they're offering deals. There's enough meat on that bone. Make sure it's a good deal and get it. You know,
Right.
so and then again, if you want to learn how to wholesale, go ahead.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, or whatever. Or if you just want to wholesale, learn how to do that. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, beating a dead horse here now. But
No,
that's
it's
the point.
but it's all really valid. And what like because
Sorry,
obviously
sorry, horse lovers.
Yeah.
but you guys have so much knowledge when it comes to, and that's why I enjoyed having conversations because like the perspective that you have is way different than the perspective that Joe and I have. So
Mhm.
what came to my mind when both you and Jarus were talking is obviously I would assume that some mistakes were made along the journey to figure out like, okay, we're spreading ourselves too thin, doing
Mhm.
too many different focuses versus like going all in on, hey, we're doing whatever, hard money loans within the state of Wisconsin or whatever the
Mhm.
case is. What made you have that as a single focus versus branching out? Like
So
what
it's hard-
learning lessons
Yeah,
have
it's
you
hard
had?
not
Yeah.
to branch out and see,
Correct.
like you said, like the shiny,
Yeah.
what'd
Shiny
you say?
object.
Shiny
Yeah,
object.
there. I was like shiny
Squirrel,
I was thinking,
squirrel
like,
syndrome, shiny object.
shiny lure, like fish, whatever. But yeah, you get it.
What caused us to really
Yeah.
kinda-
Yeah.
I think we have at least for us,
Yeah.
some of the visible scars that and wounds that haven't necessarily healed
Mhm.
completely. Right? Is that a fair statement? On some of those maybe choices we made to either do a deal in a different state
Yeah.
that didn't turn out real well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not saying we don't have some out of state that did turn out
Yeah,
well, but
right.
you kind of remember some of those pain points, and every one of those is an unfortunate, but it's an education
Yeah.
for us,
Mhm.
and so it really kind of just reinforces, whether it's a deal that didn't turn out as well, or a borrower who maybe didn't do what they say they would do, but frankly, it's on us.
Yeah.
We
Mhm.
kind of look more introspectively, but it's those wounds that I don't know if they'll ever heal. But the point is you kind of look back and say, here's why and I like applying it to what's in front of me
Right.
now. Like,
Mhm.
okay, what did I learn then, and what better decision can we make now
Right.
in the next one? As an example,
Yeah.
when we're lending to people, we're giving them, hundreds of thousands
Yeah,
of dollars,
Mhm.
and yes, we've met them, and yes, they have to sign things, but we've had to bolster or increase some of our how we evaluate that person
Mhm.
to make sure that hopefully they're a good person for us, and
Correct.
frankly, they're doing the same with us. Are we
Right.
going to be a good partner
Yeah.
with them?
Yes.
And that's okay. So we've had to elevate some of that.
Yeah.
But it's really those, to get back to your original
Yeah.
question, it's kind of those open wounds that you look
Correct.
back on. And every time we're asked
Mhm.
or really asked
Yeah.
to do something that's outside that lane, we kind of just, and that's one of the
Correct.
great parts
Mhm.
of our relationship. We'll remind each other, like, Jarus get the call on this deal. I'm like, oh, this could be interesting.
Mhm.
And Tony's like, yeah, but, and here's why. And
Mhm.
it brings us both back to being
That is.
grounded. And that's pretty healthy in our relationship.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
I think should be healthy in any partnership
Mhm.
because it's very easy. If you've got, in our world, we could do the next deal out of state that, could be a great deal for that person,
Yeah.
but why?
Mhm.
Correct.
And we quickly don't have the answer for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Meaning why should we
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah.
And it's more just stay in our lane. but it's those wounds
Yep.
that don't always heal. I think that's one part of it. And the other part is you're really stretching yourself as soon as in our world, like any world, whether you're doing investing, wholesaling, or lending, as soon as you cross a state line or go into a different part of the rules could be different.
Correct.
And the laws could be different. And you have to all of a sudden make sure you can do things properly. And when you have so much to do in your own backyard in terms of opportunity to grow, you kind of have to question yourself of why would you go look elsewhere?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, how I would best answer that.
That's good.
And to add to that,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's way more simple. When we did some deals that kind of outside of the box, if it would keep me up at night or I'd wake up thinking about them, literally it was like, Jarus, I woke up thinking about that stupid deal that we didn't need, that we didn't need to do.
That's exactly it.
Let's not do that again.
Yeah.
And vice versa. It's literally the gut check.
Yeah.
Sometimes
That's
it's like,
true.
why are we doing this? Why when we do 1 to 4 unit regular lending,
Correct. Yeah.
I sleep great.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't even know what loans are. Just kidding.
I let Jarus take care of that. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on, but I sleep great. But when we do something a little weird,
Correct.
a little different, I'm like, and if I'm waking up or I'm thinking about it at night,
It's not worth it.
it's not worth it. It's just not worth my time at that point. It's not worth it. It's not worth the extra added stress. So.
Yeah. So I guess a question for you guys is, what do you look for when it comes to deciding whether or not to lend on a specific deal or not? Like, what is that, I guess, kind of process for you guys? Do you have like these kind of different check marks that have to be checked? Kind of curious, coming from your guys' perspective, obviously you want to make sure it's a good investment on your end. And what you're saying, obviously you don't want to just take every deal that comes at you and lend on it because it's an opportunity to make money. Not every time it's going to bank you money. So
It's great, and it's twofold actually. It's the property itself, right?
Yep.
I mean, when you look at what we do, we're a collateral-based lender.
Yep.
Not to get too technical, we go
Yeah.
to 65% of the after repair value. I
Mhm.
mean, so is the value there? Is your scope of work there? Does that make sense? Because 99% of what we do needs rehab,
Yep.
right? And you have the right purchase price and the numbers. The numbers work, right?
Yep.
Yep.
It's all that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part of it's actually pretty easy for the most part.
Mhm.
The bigger thing is you as a person. Hey, I have a very strict no jerk policy in my life.
Smart.
And I implemented
That's
that.
the way to do
I implemented that when I turned 40, and I'll tell you what, it's been life changing. And I say that only partially in jest because it's like, can we communicate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we communicate? One of the things I love about real estate, there's multiple ways to do this stuff, and there's multiple ways to win. If you get your pride out of the way,
Right.
you get your worries out of the way, and you like. There's people that I don't know if there's anything new that's happened. Someone has seen this problem
correct.
before,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, I was telling sometimes I get people that they don't want to tell me that something's going wrong on a deal because I'm their lender. And like, I don't want Tony to know. And I was trying to tell them I'm 5'6", you guys. I'm not very intimidating. So you can let me know. I am half Italian, so I do know people. But, but it's like, let me know what's going on. Because if I don't know the answers, I sure don't know everything about real estate. I know somebody that does.
Correct.
And we can fix this now.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge problem at the end. So it's,
True.
but it's that pride thing.
Yeah.
It's that pride and embarrassment sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, I messed up on this deal. You
Correct.
don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, let's communicate. So it's really going through, and they have to go through a little process with us. They go online. They just hit the start here button. We try to make things easy, right?
Right.
Start here. Watch a 3-minute and 18-second video explains what we do.
Goodfaithfunding.com or goodfaithfund.
Goodfaithfund.com.
Okay.
Yep.
There's a funding. There's a
include the
funding
link
that's in
below.
Ohio, so you don't want to get
okay.
you don't want to get
Yeah.
Tony. There's a Tony down there too, and he gets mad when he gets emails from me. So don't do that, Tony. If you're watching, I'm sorry. But ultimately they hit that button. They watch the little video. They set up a Zoom call with me. They answer a couple questions, right? And really the discussion is more about, hey, what do you want to accomplish?
Yeah.
We do the detailed things. Hey, here's how the process works. But I'm trying to get to know them. I want them to get to know me. I meet with every single one of our borrowers. It's really that getting to know them as best I can on a half-hour call. Yeah. And then giving resources. Then I will send an email. It has a bunch of resources on it afterwards that say, hey, here are some things you can do to help your business.
Right.
And then it's that communication thing. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know. Let's figure it out. Type of thing. But yeah, so it's twofold.
Yeah.
You know, it's the property piece is easy,
Mm-hmm.
relatively speaking. I mean, either is a deal or it's not.
Right.
Oftentimes, I mean, there's some little bit of gray in there, but it's really about that person, that personal piece. Are you a good
Mhm.
person? Can we talk? Can we communicate? If we get into something, can we talk through it?
Correct.
Right.
Stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Mhm.
But can we talk through it? So
Well,
Interesting.
I think so many people, and it reminds me of like when we go out on appointments with owners,
Mhm.
and they're embarrassed about what's going on,
Yeah.
and then they try to pull themselves out of the situation by themselves, but they have no ability to. So then it's like, well, I don't want to say that we're the last resort, but probably damn
Sometimes,
near.
yeah.
It's so then they get in the situation. Same with borrowers. It's like, well, hey, I think I'm going to be able to figure this out, and then they wait, and then they wait, and then it's like, oh, yeah, now we need to start working through some stuff because you're out of time, you're out of options.
Mhm.
You might be past due on the mortgage or whatever the case is. Like, hey, let's get to the finish line, and whether we're buying it or they're borrowing the money or they're refinancing or whatever the case is. So it's interesting how similar,
very similar.
Mhm.
Yes.
both avenues are.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of has me thinking of it. But from your guys' perspective now, is it like obviously the lending business has grown drastically over the last however many years. Hopefully it'll grow more after this podcast. That's what my hope is. But with that, is there still the interest and desire to actively pursue buying real estate if you have a active place in the management of it? Or is it more or less, hey, we have the ability to raise funds for this, like let that be our role in the deal?
Mhm.
Or are you still actively pursuing real estate, or what does that look like?
Jarus?
So Tony and I own some real estate together,
Yeah.
and early last year we kind of woke up together and had a conversation.
Woke up together?
Woke up
Come
and
on,
had a
man.
conversation.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
We're close,
They're
but
both
not
married.
that close.
They're both
Whoa.
married.
No.
God, let's keep it to real estate, okay?
Yeah. Sorry. All right, here's the cut on the edit. All right, here, at least that's a question or the answer.
This is unedited.
Yeah, perfect. Even better. But we both said to ourselves, do we want to keep doing that as well as lending? And both came to the same conclusion that let's just sell at least the stuff we own together. And I think Tony on the personal side, he can answer there, but has taken a similar approach to really narrow our focus. Because for us, so the short answer is no. We're not out actively buying.
Correct.
And not interested in, this deal's so good, we should buy it ourselves.
Right.
We don't even wake up and think about that. Part of it is life simplification for each of us. And we don't want it to be like it had been, not the investing side, but just doing another thing became somewhat of a distraction. Because in our world, we meet frequently and we can really assess personally how much of our time are we spending really on moving the ball forward in our business, or how much time are we spending on the adjacent distractions of the business? And we needed to change that ratio to spend more time on moving the ball forward. And so the short answer is no for both of us. So we sold all of those in 2024. And I'll let Tony answer the personal side.
Yeah, same thing. It's simplification. I'm gonna. And I had a couple people like, well, if you're selling all your stuff, why should I even be buying? I get, but I'm like, I'm in a different spot than you are too. I'm going to be 50 here. And I've been doing this for a long time. So these properties I've owned for a while. They had a bunch of equity. It was a good time for me to get out. I was doing taxes last year, and I'm like, I have 7 or 8 different LLCs with 7 or 8 different people, and it's just
That's
like
a lot.
Jeez.
And I got people managing it all, so it wasn't like the day-to-day, but I'm just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So it was really a simplification. It was a good time to sell. I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't do, if I wasn't going to make money, I wasn't going to do it. But it was a good time to sell too, and so I was able to get out of some of those LLCs and just really simplify things, and it's a lot about the focus. I really enjoy the lending. And we've set up our business where it's very streamlined. We've got some software stuff that's so slick. So really all I do all day for the most part is talk to people about real estate. Hey, well, how do you want to build your business? That type of stuff. I love that. I didn't love thinking around with, I got to pay another bill at this place because, or getting even when my manager called me and say, what do you want to do with this? I'm like, I don't know, whatever you want. It's just like, I want to deal with it.
Right.
It's just not, it wasn't, and that's not saying I do everything just because it's fun, but it was not fun.
Correct.
And so, the simplification. So the other thing that I found, the other thing too, is that when I'm not going to be I'm not there buying up deals either. There's enough so other people can buy them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have my time. I'm
Correct.
cool.
Correct.
So there's no competition between
Yep.
me and
That's
us
true.
and our borrowers.
Mhm.
So not like that was the biggest.
But
factor.
still,
Right.
like I'm sure, well, obviously if people are like, hey, why aren't you buying, or why are you buying all these deals, or whatever the case is, then
Well,
there's
it's like
that.
you get a real estate
Yeah.
person who's an investor,
Mhm.
and they get all these deals, and you're not getting any of them. Like I've seen that happen before,
Yeah.
and I don't want to be that guy either.
Yeah, yeah.
So, not like we were, but anyway.
No,
Yeah.
it's,
That's-
and
I
Go
was
ahead,
just
Joe.
gonna say, like from like a customer standpoint too, looking from the outside in, I think it just shows that you guys are more dedicated to basically fulfill all the needs that are necessary for your customers, and you're focused just on that
Yeah.
versus taking the time or having your time split between a couple different businesses.
Yeah.
And then, maybe you're not focusing as much time on, the lending side, things get messed up. And like you were saying, that's when problems occur. They don't get solved right away, and then it leads to bigger problems. So I think that, like, at least
Yeah.
from me personally, that's a big reassurance knowing that you guys are dedicated for strictly the lending process, because you understand that that's the most important thing of your business, and that's going to get you where you need to go.
We're not stretched just like you guys. I mean, if you guys
Yeah.
did a bunch of other things,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's crazy.
I see people
That's-
get stretched way too thin.
Yeah.
And it not only affects your business, affects your personal life
Yeah.
and all these other things too. But the important things, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want that happening.
Yeah.
I don't want to be stressed out about something goofy when that's
Mhm.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So
And it's the simple process of, okay, is it keeping you up at night? Is it keeping you up days and days or weeks of the month? And then you're like, why? Then you reflect back, why am I even doing this?
Mhm.
And then you start to resent it if it continues to happen. And that's where, like, in 2024 for us, it was truthfully a realization of, okay, we're doing all these different things. We're kind of scattered across, like, let's just narrow down the focus to flipping, wholesaling. That's it.
Mhm.
And then specifically on our side, just buying and reselling properties is kind of the focus in
Mhm.
whatever 2025 here. But just simplifying everything to make life a heck of a lot easier.
Mhm.
Do the numbers work? Yes, no, that's pretty simple. But I don't know. That is interesting because, like, and people I think look at the business model of lending. I look at the business model of lending and I'm like, that's pretty sweet. Like the setup is pretty sweet, but no one sees the work that goes in for however many years
Mhm.
of accumulating assets and building relationships and everything like that. People are just, they're naive to that fact. But I don't know. I think what you guys have built is truthfully, like, it is incredible because the process in and of itself is, and I've said this to you guys before, it's the easiest one throughout Wisconsin that I've
Yeah.
ever had experience
By
dealing with.
far.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for
And it's-
saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's,
We do spend a lot of time
Yeah.
in a good way refining that
Yeah.
process.
Mhm.
I mean, we keep our IT person very busy on let's tweak this because we want the borrower experience
Yep.
to be as simple and efficient as possible.
Mhm.
We'd rather have them spend time on buying the deal right, finding the deal, than putting the application in our system.
Yeah.
Why do that?
Mhm.
And so we spend literally weekly enhancing and tweaking the system to make sure that it's as simple as possible for all involved.
Mhm.
The borrower,
Yep.
our internal folks, a few other things that we've set up
Yeah.
here recently. And so that's really where the focus is. And we get to spend time not only meeting, as Tony
Yeah.
said, with new borrowers and just talking real estate, but also really on the refinement of the business
Yes.
to make it as efficient as
Yeah.
possible.
Mhm.
People make things so complex, and we're like, we're not building a rocket here.
correct.
Yeah.
We're doing real estate, and
Yeah.
there's nuances that you
Yeah.
need to be, and that comes with some experience and or talking to people when something happens, having the courage to do that. But it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Let's make this simple. It's not. When you go and do a normal loan, you're signing 78 pages.
Yeah.
What in the world? No one
I know
knows
that's
what.
Yeah.
insane. It
I did
is
mortgages
insane.
for years. I have no idea what any
Yeah.
of that means. I'm just kidding. But the reality is, though, seriously, what are you signing? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, so even the
Correct.
closing process should be simple.
Mhm.
So
And do you guys have, like, because obviously you both have kids, do you have a desire for your kids to get into the real estate business?
It's a great question as we think about what the next
Yeah.
chapter, there's
Mhm.
a lot of chapters that this thing could take. That's something that's been on our mind.
Yeah.
I mean, the two kids that we have, each of us have that are similar of age are,
Yeah.
probably not ready for that,
Yeah.
in their
Mhm.
life. Tony's got one older son. I don't know, frankly,
Mhm.
it would be cool if one of them shown an interest. It doesn't really matter
Yeah.
who, but
if they're not, none of my kids have
Correct.
shown I told them all, hey, you can just
Tag
show
along.
some interest.
Mhm.
And they're not. So I'm like, I'm not going to force.
Mhm.
I'm not going
That's
to force them
interesting.
to
Yeah.
come in, I'm not going to force them to do
Yeah.
that. So they can find their own path of
Yeah.
helping any way I can, obviously. But no, I have not had one of my kids say, hey, this is something I really want to do. I think it's great.
Yeah.
In fact, my youngest, she's just finding out. She's
Yeah.
like, she's 15, almost 16. She's
Yeah.
like, what do you do again? I'm like,
Thanks, honey.
I'm not entirely sure what you do, Dad. Now she just did a report and she found out that what we do. She had asked me a bunch of questions.
That's
So
funny.
now she knows a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it's they see me sitting
Correct.
at home. I get teased a lot for not working and all. My daughter does tease me.
Yeah.
She's like, "You're always home." I'm like, "Well, I'm working.
Yeah.
I am working."
Yeah.
So
Just because I'm eating this bag of chips
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
mean I'm not working.
Finishing the newest
Yeah.
Netflix series.
Wicked Tuna, I love that show.
Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, we'll see. That I would,
Yeah.
and to be honest, if one of them would ever show it, I'm
Yeah.
curious. I want to speak for your kids, but I assume the same or you. But they've showed interest. Yes, we
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
But so if someone wants to be
Yeah.
a kid and
Yeah.
Adopt.
Yeah.
come learn, yeah, let us know.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome because I think a lot of people, they, especially that are, I guess, entrepreneurs and business owners, you think you want to try and hand that off to your kids and everything like that. But at the same time, you don't want to force them to do something because that's the last thing that
Mhm.
any kid should have to go through is being forced to go to school or forced to go into some sort of occupation that they're not passionate about. And I think the biggest,
Joe, I think they should all go to school.
well, I'm saying college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I said school. That's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely go to school. But
Stay in school, kids.
yeah, like I think there's a lot of times where you want to try and instill a lot of different things that you've learned, and you think this is the right way to go about life. But also knowing that line, you don't want to, I guess, force anybody to do anything, especially with going into a profession that they're not really comfortable about or not passionate about. So hearing that, it's nice to know that,
Mhm.
yeah, just let them kind of do their own thing. If they want to come, let them come on their own.
Yeah.
There's no reason to force any of your kids to do anything that they're not passionate about.
Yeah, the passion needs to be there. I mean, and
Mhm.
we talk to people all the
Yeah.
time, and I hear that word thrown
Mhm.
out, and I'm like, if you're not passionate about it,
Mm-hmm.
about real estate, what do
I know.
do something else?
Correct.
Yeah.
Go work 9 to 5.
Mhm.
You want, that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either by any stretch of imagination. Hopefully, you find something that you're passionate about that you can do.
Right.
We spend a lot of time in our job, so you better like it
Oh,
at
correct.
least a little bit.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding.
So, but we're so blessed that I'm in a position that I love.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not. What is it? If you love your job, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Correct.
I feel
Yeah.
that way.
Mhm.
So it's
That's
awesome.
great.
Jarus, what are
Very
your
blessed.
thoughts on that?
Well, in terms of the kids and the next
Yeah,
generation,
yeah, exactly.
specifically, it would be great if one of them did express interest. Hasn't
Mhm.
really come up yet, but
Right.
some of them
Yeah.
are a little younger, and so
Yeah.
it may. And the interest could be in certain segments of the business too.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be taking it over by any
Yeah.
stretch, but there's accounting and financial
Yeah.
roles,
Right.
and there's underwriting. There's different things that people could get involved in. Just meeting new borrowers.
Right.
So it'd be nice, but my older daughter spent some time helping out in certain
Yeah.
things, and we'll see if it really
Yeah.
gets traction in her mind.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it does, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't, that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very much okay. But for us, ultimately, it's really you got to have passion.
Yeah.
It's got to bring you joy in
Correct.
return.
Right.
And I think not everyone realizes that maybe younger in their
Mhm.
life that you got to get some joy out of it besides
The
it's
money.
more about the money,
It's
right?
not-
Yeah.
Yes.
And more than just that. But hopefully someday
Mhm.
someone will. For us, if it's not tomorrow, that's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
At some point, it's going to
Yeah.
come up for one or both of us. But
Yeah.
Well, and I think, like we had mentioned before, like the succession plan of the
Mhm.
business. It's like, okay, well, some people, at least from what I've seen, they build this business and then they don't hire the right people or put the right people in the right seats. And they're like, oh yeah, my kids are just going to take it over. It's like, hey, your kids, they don't want anything to deal with it.
Right.
Like they'll dump the real estate the day after you pass away or whatever the case
Mhm.
is for pennies on the dollar, just because they almost have such a resentment towards
Yes.
it because the people just didn't build the business properly. And that's what I almost see as well. So it's admirable on the side of like, hey, we're putting in the systems, the processes, everything. That's what we're trying to do on our side as well. Cause it's like, okay, if something happens to me or something happens to Joe or my dad or my brother or whatever the case is, like what happens to the business and all?
Yes.
Is it just a high paying job at this point? Is it an actual functioning business? So
Yes.
What caused you guys to learn those lessons? Cause it's like at first, like as a, maybe I would assume it's different for you, Tony, than it is for you, Jarus, but like what had made you want to implement more of the systems processes in your business versus
Love this
trying to
question.
handle all the roles?
So if you're okay, Tony, I'll give you my perspective. No, seriously.
I'm so scared.
No. So a number of years ago, when I got further involved in the business, it became very quickly apparent that what was built was excellent.
Yep.
But I think Tony would agree. What was
We'll
also
see.
built, we could, there was an opportunity to improve on, in terms of the process and in using at that time kind of different systems and kind of it all kind of brought together. And some of it was Excel based, some of it had different tools. And so really the epiphany there is as we're both chatting about what it could be, and we were sitting across the table from our IT person, and all of a sudden he's like, I could build that for you, and what we were kind of describing, we're like, okay, cool, let's do it. And all of a sudden the light bulb got even brighter in terms of what this could be, and that's 3.5 years ago, and it's literally every week since we've been. But the systems and process part was super important and continues to be, and somewhat of a quick callback to what if someone's not there on a given day in the business. I feel very confident that all of us, are an important aspect of the business. But if someone wasn't there temporarily tomorrow, like a member of our team is taking a vacation coming up here, going to be gone for a number of days, and we're not going to miss a beat. Yeah. Partly because we've got the system set up that either that person can do it in their the little pockets of time they have while they're on vacation on their phone or on their computer. Told the person not to take their computer on vacation, but they're still going to.
Exactly.
That's okay. But also, Tony or I could probably pick that up and do that person's role for that period of time because we've got the triggers, the prompts, the checks already set up in the system where it is pretty methodical and you just kind of follow the process. So that part gives us a lot of comfort from a business continuity perspective. I mean, that's what it really comes back to. Because if you don't have the continuity, then you're waking up, in the morning worrying about what if this breaks or what if someone's not there and you can't necessarily keep something going, or what's getting missed that you don't realize is getting missed a step in the process.
I'm going to throw this out there too. And I agree 100% that, I was on 3 or 4 different spreadsheets and then, it would take me 2 hours to put a loan together. Right. Now it takes me almost 14 seconds.
Wow,
literally,
that's
where
crazy.
as far as the paperwork goes. I mean, I was cutting and pasting. Plus, not only the time, but the chance for error.
Yeah.
I got legal documents that I'm cutting and pasting things. And what if I paste the wrong thing or whatever? And I'm trying to.
I would never think of that.
All that stuff. So now it's just boom. I push a couple buttons and we're off. But one of the and this is something that I think as your business continues to grow, people are like, well, when my business gets big enough, then I'll start getting some software, get all spreadsheets and all this stuff, right? Here's what you don't listen to anything else. Listen to this. When the business was on all those spreadsheets, it was a nice trajectory of growth. It was going pretty good. All right. Then we systemize everything. Jarus systemized everything.
There you go.
But allowed us then to do what we enjoy. Got rid of all the rest of stuff that we don't like. That we're again talking about those stress things and things. The business went hockey stick. Yeah. The volume literally hockey stick as far as so it was a nice little and then bang because we're out there doing what we really like. Yeah. And we're in all those things that we don't like. We're not having to do or we're doing in minutes rather than hours.
Right.
We're putting off or whatever because I don't want to do them. So it's worth the initial time and money to get the system set up, whatever that is, so you're able to do what you love. Yeah. And get rid of the rest of the crap. Get it to somebody else. That's why I don't manage that's why I didn't manage properties. I didn't like managing properties. That's why I hired an accountant because I don't like I'm really good at accounting. Yeah. I am Jarus, actually.
Yeah,
but I don't like
Pat
it.
yourself on the
Right.
back a little bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
It's always reassuring when you have to convince me that you're good at something. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Jarus, believe me, I am really good.
I'm super good.
What I did, I'll get back to reality
Yeah.
here. No, but what I did is I did an evaluation around that time when I put the no jerk policy, and I did an evaluation, a deep dive into what do I like to do? What do I hate to do? What am I good at? What am I bad at? And I literally got rid of what I don't like to do and what I'm bad at.
Yeah.
Kept the other two. And this did not happen overnight.
I was gonna
guys.
say,
This
how
took
long?
years. This took
Okay.
years before I could find the right people to put in
Yeah.
place to do the things that I didn't like to do or that I was bad at.
Mhm.
And it also took a little bit of humility to say, hey, what
Yeah.
am I really bad at? Because
Correct.
at that point, I thought I was good at everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I was massive
Yeah,
ego.
yeah.
Right?
I don't know if
I'm
that's
so,
Yeah.
I'm,
gotten
I'm,
any
I'm,
less,
I'm
but-
very proud of how humble I am right now in my life.
I will
So,
say you are very humble.
but it's seriously sitting down and doing that. Then it allowed me to game plan. Okay, what can I?
Yeah.
Because I want to do things that I like and I'm good at.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then so I had a spike then in my business. Then systemized, and then systemization came afterwards. Some of the systems things came afterwards, as far as the business specifically, and then a massive spike once I was doing what I like to do and good at, and had the systems in place to do that. It's just a massive spike in volume. So can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
I guess kind of follow-up question to go back to that, I guess. What were those like tasks that you guys realized, okay, this is taking us a long time to do. We need to cut this out and systemize this, and then figuring out also, what were those 1, 2, 3 things that were, okay, this is what you're both really passionate about, you really like to do. You'd rather do this all the time and then delegate the rest. Like, can you explain a little bit more in detail of what those few different things might have been?
I guess for me, it was pretty simple. I just really like talking to people about real estate, so I got rid of all the rest of the tasks. I mean, I literally,
Really?
I simplified it tremendously.
Yeah.
Tremendously. That's what I enjoy doing.
Mhm.
I enjoy conversations about real estate. I enjoy talking to people about real estate. I enjoy helping people with real estate.
Mhm.
Been very, very, very blessed in my life. So I have an opportunity to help people make less mistakes than I made. And if I can do that, that's a huge win for me.
Mhm.
So literally to get rid of I don't even like opening my mail. Okay. So if I could get someone to do that for me, I'd be so, and during COVID I had, anyway, long story. But
Yeah.
point is I loved it when I didn't have to open my mail. Point is I just literally took and I narrowed it down to what do you really like to do it and what are you good at? Good at, talking to people about real estate.
Yeah. Yep.
And my job.
I would add that, using your example earlier about creating the loan documents. So
Yeah.
Yes.
there's 2 ways to solve that
Yeah.
part of the business
Right.
puzzle. You just hire someone to do it for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But all you're doing is you're moving the work from yourself to someone else. Yes, that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But why not just, as best you can, automate the creation of
Yes.
that so that, yes, you can still give it to that other person, but you give them the ability to add value.
Yeah.
There's cutting and pasting isn't really adding value.
Right.
Again, error prone. So we automated it and then made sure that those tasks were being done by someone who was passionate about that.
Yes.
And our person who does that is passionate
Yes.
about that. And so it's really those two things. And so there was a lot of aspects, back to your question, Joe, of the business, whether it's document creation, keeping track of where a loan is in the status, communicating with all the parties involved, borrower, the title company, et cetera. We've tried to automate or systematize as much of that as possible. And when I say automate, it's not like this is a hands-off kind of thing
Right,
where all of a
right.
sudden the engine just runs.
Right.
But more importantly, you got someone checking, okay, yep, we can move on to the next step.
Yes.
Everything's good, we can move on to the next step. But that trigger that everything's good, you can let the system make that decision for you so that you as the human can say, yes, I agree.
So
And
we're
move it
we're
on.
just looking over making sure everything looks good,
Yeah.
but that
Exactly.
type of thing, which in the systemization, that's such a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately we're chasing minutes and seconds
Right,
in
I was
terms
gonna
say.
of saving the time.
Yeah.
Because not only for us, I mean, we could just do it just for Tony and
Yeah,
I, but it's for the other members of our team as well as the borrowers to say, why should they spend that time when they don't have to if the system can do it?
Yes.
And, quick side story. We're 3 years into our system. We love it. It evolved it every week.
Yeah.
We had a person kind of getting another person get added to our team who was really intrigued by all this. So they kind of did a process review with each member of the team. And we uncovered where one member of our team, because they really wanted to make sure things were backed up or saved as a duplicate copy.
Okay.
And all of a sudden we realized that person's spending 30 hours a month because they just felt
Really?
better doing this extra step. And we're like, well, it's okay that you do that extra step. That's okay. We didn't
Yeah.
ask them to, but
Yeah.
it's
Right.
okay. But let's not spend the 30 hours.
Correct.
So we're about a couple days away from eliminating that 30 hours, and we're going to automate what that person
That's
did. We're going to give
cool.
that person 30 hours back.
Yeah.
That's
because
huge.
that
That's
allows
crazy.
us to really not only create better, hopefully, job satisfaction for
Yeah.
that person on our team, and of course we don't
Yeah.
have to do it, but also that same person. About 6 months ago, we were having kind of a
Yeah.
team outing, and we kind of just quickly recited, here's what we've done year to date,
Yeah.
and how it compared with the prior year to date, and what percentage it had grown. And that person said, I didn't even realize that we had grown.
That's crazy.
Meaning
Yeah.
that person didn't feel you
Yeah.
know, they weren't having to pedal harder
Right.
to get the work done.
They were probably even putting like less. It
Maybe,
was like
maybe.
not
That's
having to do
crazy.
as much.
Kind
And
of
so-
worried we're going to replace her
Yeah.
Yeah.
with AI.
Yeah.
you know?
which is never going to
Never,
ever.
ever. But the
If
point
you're
is,
watching this, Shauna, never
Yeah,
leaving
exactly.
us.
She's phenomenal.
Yes.
but that allows us the confidence. Fast forward to today, because we want to continue to grow. Now, we don't. At least I don't. I don't think
Yeah.
you do. If this grows another significant percentage, that's not a worry. It's like we've got all the
Yeah.
infrastructure there. It's just okay. Take more of the same.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty comforting, at least for me,
Mhm.
pretty
Yeah.
comforting position to be in. Now, it doesn't mean we don't keep looking for blind
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah.
But
Correct.
more importantly, when you have the infrastructure there, and you can grow,
Yeah.
that is pretty comforting. And not everyone's going to be stressed about it
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
we don't want to be stressed. We don't want our team to be stressed.
You don't want our borrowers to be stressed.
And we don't want
Yeah.
our bars to be stressed. So how can we help everyone
Yeah.
involved?
One quick example
Yeah.
for that too. So now I used to send the emails. So you pay
Yeah.
off a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You pay off a deal, and I'd send, hey, thanks for, and I'd
Mhm.
write it. I'd write it out every time.
Yep.
Now I just press a button and it goes to you.
Done.
Now all I need to do once in a while, just to see if you even notice, is I
Yeah.
tweak something once in a while.
That's-
So
well, you told me that a while ago.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you've been
they're all
looking?
the same. They're all the same.
I did a couple. I said Happy New Year on the last one.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Like,
Somebody
this
says,
is an
have a great day.
That's funny.
But that's like, how would you, Jarus, on your side, how would you learn to like systemize the business? Because that's
Yeah.
not a skill that, like, now that I realize it, that's something that we have to get a lot better
Mhm.
at, and that's what we've been putting energy and effort towards,
Mhm.
and even with hires and everything like that. But
Mhm.
how would you get proficient at doing that over the last however many years?
I think the big moment for us was we had an outside person come in
Yeah.
who had enough vested interest, knew enough of us, had both a technical mind and a
Yeah.
process-oriented mind.
Okay.
And that person met with all of us, and we did a process map flow.
Yeah.
Some people call it a cross-functional flow chart,
Okay.
a swim lane diagram. But it's basically, I'll give you a simple
Yeah.
example. If you've got 4 people in your organization, and you basically, it's a flow chart
Yeah.
that goes from left to right, and you basically can say, what is everyone doing
Yeah.
from beginning of a loan to payoff of the loan, the
Yeah.
full
Mhm.
cycle. And that was extremely revealing because for the first time, and I think Tony would agree,
Yeah.
we had something on paper, very detailed,
Yeah.
but on paper that really said, here's what goes into one single loan. Okay, so big epiphany,
Yeah.
a lot of steps.
Yeah.
But also you could find out very quickly that person 1 hands the process off to person 2 and what is involved in that. And person 2, what does person 2 do with
Yeah.
it? And then all of a sudden we could realize, well, person 2 is doing this cutting and pasting. Well, why don't we, because person 1 put that information in the system,
Mhm.
why don't we automate the creation
Yeah.
of that step for person 2?
Mhm.
So that flow charting, that diagramming was the foundation of the whole
Mhm.
thing, because then we could turn to the tech person and say,
Yeah.
can you create a system to do maybe just, we didn't do the whole thing,
Mhm.
it was too big, do these subset of steps. And then from there, we had our roadmap. Where do we go next when they
Yeah.
do that?
Mhm.
And this IT person, I love him, his name's Dana, he, in 2 weeks, had the prototype to do that subset of
crazy.
steps.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, we could eliminate one spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Or one
Yeah.
dependency on a portion of a spreadsheet,
Yes.
which was, could be error
Yeah.
prone.
Yeah.
And it's the rapid evolution thereafter. And the diligence, literally weekly, of, okay, what's next? What do we need to do to refine
Correct.
this
And
next?
that does take time.
Mhm.
There was a lot of time put in that. So, I mean, it is painful in the beginning. It takes time and it takes money.
Yep.
Mhm.
But like I said, the benefits of that hockey stick,
Oh, it's insane.
it's
Yeah.
it was so worth
Mhm.
Jarus putting that time in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was so worth it for me.
So
For him to do
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
it was exhausting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I stressed out a lot about. No, I slept great.
But
Seriously,
seriously, 2 weeks later,
way
when
worth
we
it.
had that prototype,
Yeah.
literally, and I kind of say this a little bit in jest, but we basically said, why didn't we do this?
Yeah.
a
Correct.
year
Of
ago?
course. Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my gosh, we now don't have to do this.
Mhm.
And when you can look at a member of your team and say, guess what, you don't have to do this
Mm-hmm.
painful spreadsheet based or whatever
Yeah.
step anymore. Big relief on their eyes,
Yeah.
in their
Right.
eyes, and that's important too. And you don't have to worry as much
Yeah.
about the
Right.
the risk of error thing.
I still have a folder
Yeah.
where I put documents in, and I put the name of the borrower or whatever.
Yep. Keep talking.
And I realized that I don't need to do that anymore. And I realized that about 3 months ago, but I still do it. But I don't need to.
Yep.
It's like Sean would think. So I'm gonna stop that after this conversation. I'm stopping that. Don't need to. It's all in the same spot. It's all
Yeah.
systemized, and I was just doing it because that's my own dumb,
Right.
And these are things where we get into these habits.
Yeah. You think you have to do it all yourself, and you have to. You already
Well,
have
that's
like
how I
this.
always did it,
You think
Joe.
you have a little system, but
Yeah.
that system you realize is way outdated. and-
Obsolete and useless, to be honest with you, and wait, and just a time suck and a time waste, and don't need to do it.
Right.
I'm going to just delete that folder now.
Exactly.
I think the caution with it though is that don't worry. A person who's embarking on this, don't worry about trying to change the whole process or the
Correct.
system
Right.
tomorrow.
Correct.
Just focus on the most painful value add, the most error prone, whatever that would be in the business.
What's keeping you up at night?
What's
Your
keeping
biggest
you
pain.
up-
What your biggest pain point?
Mhm.
Systemize that. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that could be just a system, or it could very well be hiring somebody
I
else
was
to
gonna
do
say,
that.
yep.
I did, the accounting piece. Like I said, I'm like getting rid of that on a monthly basis was super.
Mhm.
I would dread it for 2 days before the end of the month, and I'm like, so I'm wasting 2 days
Correct.
of every month.
Mhm.
Worried about
Now
doing
Jarus
accounting.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's
whole nother podcast, but I'm very happy with what we
Yeah.
have on
Yeah.
the accounting side.
Yeah.
And it was a great and interesting evolution of how we got there.
Yeah.
But the accounting doesn't necessarily dictate how the business
Yeah.
evolves, but it is your windshield and your rear
Yeah.
rear glass on a car.
Right.
You can see what's behind you and what's in
Yep.
front of you. It can help you maneuver, and
Mhm.
having that in a timely basis at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Super important.
Yep.
It allows us to really be nimble in the business.
Yeah.
Not that we make all these different turns or maneuvers, but
Right.
when we're making a maneuver, we're not wondering whether it's the right maneuver or
Mhm.
not.
With the
It's-
numbers to back
we've
us
got
up.
the numbers to back us up.
Mhm.
So that's very comforting as well. But yeah, so
Do,
I know.
do you think
Go ahead.
like having all those systems now that you've created for your guys' like business, does it give you the free time and the mental capacity to then think a little bit bigger and more like in that CEO kind of mindset of, okay, where are we kind of going? And also what's the big picture and everything like that
Yeah.
versus before you were kind of, I guess, like kind of stressing out about, the little details, the little things you have to keep track
Before,
of.
Joe, you're just trying to get through the day sometimes, or through
Yeah.
the week, or through the month, and now you can focus on those things,
Mhm.
and or do something else.
Right.
It frees up time to do other things that you're passionate about.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know.
basically buying back your time.
Yeah.
Right, you're buying back
Yeah,
your
that's-
time 100%. So
Mhm.
I always tell people that I would, real estate has allowed me to schedule my work around my life.
Yeah.
Right, I don't miss my kids' stuff and
Mhm.
all that. And I would take a massive pay cut to have the flexibility in my schedule that I
Mhm.
have, especially now. But fun part is I don't have to.
I know.
Yep.
But it does free up your time to do those other things that you're passionate about, whatever that is. So,
Mhm.
and it's too important. Life
Yeah.
goes by. I can't believe I'm going to meet half a century.
I know.
Just saying it kind of still freaks me out, but I know
That is-
Grandpa
that's-
Tony
yeah.
really freaks me out.
Yeah,
but
that is.
Yeah.
it goes by really fast. Is my point,
Mhm.
and you gotta hopefully have time to enjoy some of it,
Mhm.
especially with family, friends, and being able to volunteer and things like that.
Mhm.
That are important stuff.
Definitely.
When even being intentional about building
Yeah.
the business in that way, because most people just are not intentional. And I
Mhm.
think having the more conversations I have with you guys, and then
Mhm.
the reflection on the software and all of those components, I'm like, this is like it gives me the incentive to like, okay, here's where I'm shooting for, like seeing all the processes that you guys have in place. Like, how can we make our business a
Mhm.
little bit easier on everyone involved?
Right.
So I just thanks
Yeah.
for that because that's huge.
Yeah.
And it's
And Carter,
provided a lot
how
of
big
peace
do you
of mind.
want to get? That's the other thing too.
Well, correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
How big do you want to get?
Yep.
We Jarus and I had that conversation. I mean, we could probably
Yep.
grow a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But we're like, how big do we want to get?
Correct.
We always say this all the time. We don't want this to become a job.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, how do you kind of, because that's something that we're trying to figure out too, is like, where do you, like, obviously you want to have those aspirations, those big dreams of, I want to make millions, billions of dollars. Obviously that's
Do you, Joe? Do you want to make billions? I mean,
I would
people
love-
say
yeah.
people say billion. What would you do with $1 billion, Joe?
Yeah, no kidding.
What would you do with $1 billion?
Okay, so let me kind of quick breakdown. The reason why I would want the million or millions of dollars is to have that freedom and be able to basically live an abundant lifestyle with my family and be able to do all the things that I've always wanted to do, travel, and just have that, I guess, security that comes along with having the money.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, I guess, in the short term.
I'm just teasing a little
I know.
bit. But
But
$1 billion's a lot of money. And if you're going that much,
yeah,
you're going to have some headaches.
Right. No.
Well, and it
Very
takes
true.
the amount of sacrifice that I probably wouldn't be willing to give up.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if I'm gonna miss family things and all these or be traveling or whatever the case is. I'm not gonna give up that much of my life to devote to money.
Mhm.
So I don't know,
Yeah.
but to each their own.
Well, teach your own.
Yeah.
But it is a question that as your business continues to grow, you need to ask it.
Correct.
How big do you want to get?
Mhm.
How much is enough?
Right.
These
exactly
questions, because you can continue to grow, but for what point? I mean,
Correct.
are you growing just to grow? Are you growing for your ego? Are you growing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Figure that
I think it's
out.
probably the ego thing
Well,
for
some,
most people.
for some people, yeah, absolutely.
But
There's a lot of reasons.
I
There's a lot of
think-
reasons.
I think the other consideration, it not only is how big does a person want to get, the other thing, at least this resonates with me, is I look at things, whether you're making a maneuver in life or a maneuver in your business, more so on the business side, though, is there's really two ratios that matter to me, at least when I'm making decisions. There's the family side, that's paramount. But on the business side, it's what am I going to financially get out of this divided by how many hours am I going to spend on it? Physical hours, mental hours, because people sometimes dismiss the mental hours. But when you wake up, in the middle of the night thinking about something, it's on your mind, that's mental hours. And so there's that ratio of am I going to be better off by making this maneuver and it's a little hard to project sometimes, but I think that's a good thing to evaluate. The second thing ratio that's important in my mind is the number of headaches I have divided by how much I'm financially getting out of this. And of course, we all want less headaches.
Yeah.
But it's going to come back to your example. To make the $1 billion, that can come with a lot of headaches.
Right.
Okay, so where is that important part? And none of us like headaches, but sometimes you got to take on a little headache to get a lot further. Right.
Yeah.
But continuing to look at those ratios, and for me is important because how can I get rid of, as Tony said a little bit earlier, how can I get rid of the things I don't want to do or that are creating me stress and really focus on the things that are important, whether it be family, growing the business, et cetera. From my perspective in our business, and we've talked about this in terms of how big do we want to get, there hasn't been necessarily a top end number or line drawn.
Right.
But it really comes back to as long as it stays fun, as long as the people around us are happy with what they're doing, the team, because we can't do it all,
Right.
and nor do we want to do it all. Then it's somewhat, nothing's ever limitless, but it can continue to grow.
Correct.
Without constraint. But in any business, obviously you need inputs to make things grow, capital, people, etc. And for us, a lot of those things are in a good spot, so we can continue to grow. But if we were worried about any one of those things, the people, the capital, the whatever, then we'd probably be a little bit more restricted.
Yeah.
But at this point, we can continue to grow if we want to, and we do want to, ultimately. But I think it's really assessing that for each individual business. What do you have as impediments? Is it people, capital, the capacity in the process, the headaches that it could create? I've already got headaches now. They're not going to go away if you double your profit. The headaches are probably going to go up 3-4-fold. There's unfortunately an inverse relationship there sometimes, at least with headaches. If you don't address those headaches up front, or at least eliminate those on the front end. Many people can, but some people cannot. So,
well, I think we should end it there.
Yeah.
That was
great.
insightful. We've been going for over an hour.
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I got a Zoom coming up here.
I know. That's why I was watching the time, but
Thank you.
appreciate you guys watching. If you
Thank you,
want
guys.
to get a hard money loan, goodfaithfund.com. But hit the like and subscribe button. We'll see you in the next episode.